Welcome to the LA Home Show. I am your host, Natasha Phillips, and today we have with us Kathy Fettke, founder and CEO of the Real Wealth Network, building wealth through real estate. Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
We're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
So I'd love to hear how you got involved with all of this.
Oh my goodness, it's kind of all by accident. I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, where it's very, very expensive to own real estate, as it is in LA. It was just kind of a dream that I wasn't sure I would ever have. But I saw my father buy a house for $99,000 in Atherton that was worth, $1 million by the time I got out of high school, and then a few years later, a few million more. So I thought, oh, that's how you make money in real estate. You just live in a house and all of a sudden you become a millionaire. But it doesn't always wait if you buy at the wrong time. So there were people who bought, obviously in 2008, thinking they would also make that $1 million or $2 million, and ended up not. And we also lost money in that downturn. So it's become my mission to help people never allow that to happen again, to be able to see the trends, buy the right things so that you can not only build wealth in real estate, but keep it.
So how do you keep your passion alive for all of this?
I wish I knew. No one can really explain passion. It just is. But it really comes down to when I grew up in the generation that when you went to college, it was for your MRS. It was like, find a good man and let him take care of you. That was what I was taught in my very right-wing, born-again Christian family. Just be a stay-at-home mom and be the best one. So I didn't really know anything about making money or building wealth. And then generations changed, right? About 12 years ago, when I was absolutely living that dream, I had 2 small children, beautiful new home, a wonderful husband, and he came home from the doctor after having been on a book tour for his book, Extreme Success. And the doctor noticed a freckle. It turned out to be melanoma. They then did more tests, and it turned out they said, you may only have 6 months. So this fairy tale life and the I always thought I would have suddenly changed. Now, the good news is he's fine. They cut it out. All the melanoma is gone. The doctor it didn't spread, so the doctor was wrong on that. But at the time, we blew through our savings. We blew through our emergency fund, our retirement, to pay for these medical bills. I know a lot of people can relate to that. And I just thought, I'm going to do what my mother said not to do. I'm going to get a job. I had had a job before, but I took that role as I'm going to make the money for this family, and my husband is going to live at home. Live the next 6 months, if that's all he's got, the way he wants. So we shifted roles, and I just made it my passion to understand how to build wealth and keep it.
So, and you also educate people on this. So how did you get into that?
Totally by accident. At the time, I had a radio show in San Francisco on, I forget what it was, but you wouldn't know down here anyway. But I was on a radio show, and I had been doing kind of more of a personal growth type feature. And all of a sudden, it was like, okay, no, I'm going to turn this into building wealth. And I just started interviewing guest after guest after guest to tell me, how did you create passive income, enough passive income that you can do whatever you want with your time? And I thought, that's what I want, because if the doctor was right, I didn't want to have to leave at 7 in the morning and come home at 7 p.m. and not raise my children. That wasn't a choice I wanted. So I wanted to know, how do you build wealth and have passive income so that I could be that stay-at-home mom and raise the kid? And so I interviewed guest after guest after guest to find out how they did it. And so often it came down to owning real estate, but the right real estate that generates that kind of income. Not the kind that my dad made kind of by accident, just buying a house and living in it. It's like specifically buying real estate that cash flows and puts money in your account right away.
So do you have a formula that tells you the right real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really hard to do in expensive markets like California. That was one of the first things we learned. We had people like Robert Kiyosaki on the show, and at the time he said, well, you've got to know how to look at the metrics. Now, there are certain markets like California that are very cyclical. They go up, you can make a lot of money, and then they go down and you can lose a lot of money. So if you time it right, you're great. If you don't, it's very devastating. So he showed us what to look for, which was basically affordability limits. And he knew that in 2007 we'd hit that no matter how crazy the loans got, there was a cap, and that those loans were going to adjust. And most people, even the Federal Reserve, was not predicting a recession in 2008. The organization that is meant to basically balance out the economy didn't know in 2008 that there was a recession, the same year that Lehman Brothers collapsed. So how could they not know when the guests on my show did know? Because they knew what to look for. And so he taught us how to just basically ride that wave the right way. So if you could sell your California property at the peak and buy in an area like Texas that was just taking off, it was just the beginning of this boom in Texas because jobs were moving there, people were moving there, and the housing prices hadn't gone up yet. So you had this amazing window of opportunity to sell your super overpriced California property and replace it for like 4 times the amount of property in Texas and make enough money from that to retire.
Oh, wow.
Pretty great.
Yeah, that is pretty great. I'm sure our audience wants to know exactly how to do that. Yeah. So where do people find you just at that point?
Well, and that's the opportunity we have today, because then the market collapsed. It was a great time to buy, but it's peaked again. So right now, today, people have this amazing opportunity to sell at the peak and buy in the markets that were like Texas then, where the jobs are going. Jobs leave when it gets too expensive. Employers can't afford to pay employees what they need to live in San Francisco and California, in LA. There's kids making $120,000 a year out of college and they can't afford to live. That's not a great metric. So a lot of these companies are saying, well, they have to move. So where are they moving? And if you can figure that out and you can buy property wherever those jobs are going, you're going to make money.
So do you also teach people how to, besides how to invest, how to do fix and flips, or is it just mostly investing?
I don't like working that hard, honestly. I work a lot. I just don't like getting my hands dirty. So there are some people that love to find dirty old houses and tear them apart and make them beautiful. I have done that, and we've made money at it. But I prefer the passive income. I prefer to run things like a business and have other people do it. Now you can make money flipping properties, no question about it, but you can also really mess that up. So you've got to really just study it before you do it. That would be if there's one thing I would leave you with, it's don't jump into anything you don't know. And if you don't know, then you don't know what it is, but you want to do it. So you say, I see people flipping homes. I'd like to do that. Don't just buy the house next door and think you're going to make money. Find someone who's done it and done it successfully, and have a mentor, because usually people lose money on their first flip. There's surprises. You have to get the property at least 30% under market, because you've got to pay for all the repairs, the holding costs, the sales costs, and the market fluctuations. So how do you get a property 30% under market in today's frenzied market? It's really hard. So unfortunately, a lot of people see the TV shows and go, oh, I could do that, and then they find out the truth the hard way.
So do you have a program where people are able to come and learn and find how to get those properties under market?
We do. We have a podcast, The Real Wealth Show, where I interview people and they tell us what they've done. We have monthly events in LA and San Francisco where we bring in people from all around the country to tell us what's happening in their markets, who the major employers are. I could throw some crazy statistics out to you, and you'd be surprised, but let me just start with Pennsylvania. Do you know what's sort of happening in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? No.
Most people
don't. Yes. It is second to Hollywood in film production.
Wow.
Who knew? Atlanta is also doing a lot of film production, and both of those cities have a massive tech industry as well. So here you've got areas where you can buy a house for $150,000, rent it out for $1,000 a month, it's and have someone who's making the same salary is in LA, where you'd have to have $1 million property. You know, so people don't realize that there's parts of the country that are booming for different reasons. Cleveland, Ohio. Bet you don't know what's happening there. Cleveland, Ohio is a center for medical. Almost the entire downtown is these massive buildings with medical research, and the Cleveland Clinic. The best hospitals in the world are right there in Cleveland, and surrounding it are about 5 or 6 universities with students who want to be in the medical industry. And you can buy a house for $100,000 and rent it to a doctor or a nurse, and again, make about 1% of the cost of the house. So a $100,000 house might rent for $1,000 a month. You're not going to find that in very many places. Certainly not in California.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So do you spend a lot of time analyzing the markets and doing research?
Yes, I now have a team, thankfully. We have 20 employees now and about 40 independent contractors, so we're more than me now. But when it started out, it was just me. And it was just me wanting to figure out how to make passive income so that my husband could get better, you know, and that I could stay home with the kids and just take over the money part. And so, you know, that's how it started. So I would just jump on a plane. I would interview Robert Kiyosaki, and he'd say, "Oh yeah, Texas is booming." So I'd jump on a plane and I'd be in Texas. And I had to learn the hard way. I met with a real estate agent. No offense to real estate agents, but most do not understand investment property. They understand finding your home. But you've got to find the right real estate agent if you want investment property. So I didn't know that. And I flew across the country. I flew to Dallas. I knew it was booming, and I just called the first agent, and she said, "Oh, you're from California. How many would you like to buy today?" You know, because it's like I had dollar sign on my forehead and dummy on, you know, my back. But you know, so she took me to this part of town where, you know, it was mansions basically, which cost $400,000. So she thought, oh, these crazy Californians are going to think that's a bargain. I had done enough research to know, no. I want the median home price in an area where there's job growth, because that if you hit the median home price, you know, that simply means more people can afford that home. It's the middle, so that means more people can afford it. So I said, take me there. Actually, I stopped working with her. I said, I'm going to go talk to someone who understands this, and I went to property managers. I just met with one after the other to say, tell me where the rental demand is. Tell me what people are paying in rent. Where are the jobs moving, and where are you getting the most calls from, and what are potential tenants looking for when they call? And I just took notes, and then went to those areas and came back with 5 homes.
Wow.
I got 5 homes that week.
That's fantastic.
You know, there were $140,000 homes. It's a very different deal, right? It's almost like, oh, you know, buying 5 cookies or something. No, not really, but it's so different than what I was used to. Yeah.
So I'm sure through your experience, you've had some hair-raising moments.
Yeah.
Share some of those with us.
Sure. I'm joking when I say it's like buying cookies. A lot of people will go online and they'll say, oh, I heard Kathy Fettke on the news and she said Cleveland's a great place. So they'll go online and they'll buy a house, because you can do that today. Mm-hmm. You can just buy it online. And I don't suggest that. Every house is different. Every neighborhood is different. You know, you've got to know the crime rates and the ratings of the school and the proximity to jobs. So the nightmare stories I've heard is literally people buying houses online and finding out later they're in a very rough neighborhood. You know, the worst horror story was an Australian who did that and went to the house and got shot and was killed in a part of Cleveland that was very dangerous because he didn't know how to look up crime. And a lot of foreigners don't understand that we have neighborhoods in America that are not friendly, and you don't want to be there. So you've got to be careful about buying an asset like real estate so flippantly that, you know, you could go online and think, oh, this looks good. I even had trusted teams who would say, I got you a great house, but I was like, I need to go see it, because a house has a feeling, and I think that's why I'm good at this, is I'm female, and you know, not to separate men and women, but generally women choose the house. So I feel like I can go to that house and say, would I like this home? Would this feel good to me? So this property that these guys had picked out for me, I went and I said, but no, it's like the heart of the house is the kitchen and it's off over here. No, I don't want this house. So you just, you know, don't take it so lightly. Go see your property. Even if it's just $100,000, that's $100,000. It's maybe a tenth of the cost of California, but it's still a lot of money. Take the time to go. It's a $500, maybe a $300 flight, and you could do it in a day. Yeah.
Definitely, there's some type of an intuition when you just walk into a home and you know that that's the one.
Just feel it. You can feel it. In this case, because we're looking for rental properties, I just want to know that my tenant's going to be really happy and feel safe, and that their children are going to feel safe and they're going to want to stay there. So we allow animals because, you know, a family's going to have pets. So they should be able to have their pets. You know, you can charge a deposit for that. But whatever's going to make that tenant love that home and stay there, that's a moneymaker. Because here's how it works. You can buy a house, let's say a $100,000 house has an $80,000 mortgage. That's maybe $500 a month payment. But the rent's $900 a month. Now you've got this person paying off your loan for you. So in 30 years, you'll own that home free and clear. What if you bought 10? Now, if you took, I know that sounds crazy, but lenders will give you 10 loans. It's like you could go to downtown LA and buy a rental property and pay $1 million. Or you could buy 10 $100,000 properties. Now, if you had that LA property and it was vacant, what kind of income do you have? Zero. If you have 10 properties for $100,000 each, so same portfolio, it's $1 million, you have one vacancy, no big deal. If you were 50% vacant, if you had 5 of your 10 properties vacant, you'd still be better off than the one property in LA. So, you know, this is just one way that I've been able to help people see that retirement is not that far off for millions of Americans. And pensions, I mean, there's all kinds of news coming out that pensions are underfunded. Don't rely on your pension. Social Security, news just came out saying the money's not there. Well, surprise, surprise, we've known that for a long time. There's only notes in the Social Security fund that's literally like an IOU. And now they're saying, oh, well, that IOU is not good. So not only is it, was the money never there, it was an IOU, and now that's not even enough. So basically the news is if you're under 50, you're not getting your Social Security, but you're paying into it, so thank you. For us over 50s, you know, appreciate it, but you have got to take your future into your own hand. And this is what I'm constantly teaching, is you can do that through leveraged real estate, where someone else is paying off your debt for you.
So did your husband leave his previous job and join you in this wonderful endeavor?
He did, and I could talk, well, that's a whole another show about how to work with your spouse. I could give a million tips on that. It started out that he's an early adapter, so he saw that I had this radio show and that our food were blowing up. People wanted to understand, you know, how do I do this? Most people understand the value of real estate. You know, that's not, nobody has to really explain that. What people don't understand is how to do it. So once I had all these guests on, they were talking about how they were flipping homes and investing and you know, making profits here and there and all over the place. Our phones were ringing off the hook, and I didn't know what to do with all that. So my husband kind of came in and he built a website for us. It was, you know, like nothing fancy, just, you know, one of those templates you find online. But he got a website up and running. He took a silly little video of me out by a tree talking about how we were helping people build wealth. And he took my radio show and found out there was this new thing called a podcast on iTunes, and he uploaded the show there. And the next thing you know, I've got listeners worldwide. I mean, literally just overnight. And then this little video that he shot with his iPhone in front of a tree, in front of our little tiny office, was seen by Goldman Sachs. And I won one of the top most intriguing entrepreneurs by Goldman Sachs because of the
Congratulations.
So I was like, great, honey, now we have even more business. Now the phones are, I had a woman from Australia say, I saw your video, I heard your podcast, we're gonna fly you out. We have 1,000 investors who wanna buy US property. So it was just bam. And I didn't know how to run a business, and Rich had a business degree. So he started to organize all of that. But we learned that through trial and tribulation, if you're going to work with your spouse, know your strengths, have that be separate. You focus on business, I'll focus on real estate, and don't tell me what to do and I won't tell you what to do. And we'll just, do our thing.
Try to keep the separation between church and state.
Yeah, like don't tell me how to do real estate and I won't tell you how to run a business. But now we communicate really well. Yeah.
That's great. So I know you mentioned earlier about technology, people going online and buying a house.
Yeah.
How has technology changed the way you do business?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I've been around, it's so amazing. I don't know how old you are. You look very young. But when I grew up, there was no internet. So there were no cell phones. When you bought real estate, it was only through a real estate agent. That's all you could do because you didn't know what was for sale. They had the private book. So when that became public, it was like, oh my goodness, now anybody could know what's for sale. So that was a game changer. And a lot of people thought, okay, that's going to put real estate agents out of business. It didn't. Because at the end of the day, you need a local expert to help you. It's a big transaction. So the way that technology has really helped anyone buying real estate is now you can shop online. You can say, I like this neighborhood, I like this house, I like this and then this, but you still need that boots on the street. Because somebody local is going to be able to know the history of that area and what's coming. So there's only so much technology can do. Just like Zillow, they do those estimates and they're rarely correct because a machine at this point can't tell a human can. So you got to be careful. So the positive of technology is you can get a lot of crime data online. You can get school data. You can get comps. You can get rental comps. You could find out. Nobody can really rip you off because someone could say, oh, this will rent for $2,000, and you look up, nope, Zillow says it doesn't. So it gives you a window into, what else do I need to know here? Why are these numbers not matching? It gives you something to work with, but it's not the end all. There's a lot of companies coming online, posting properties, saying, yeah, you could just buy it online, and I don't think we're there yet because it's not cookie cutter. Every house is different.
And how would you encourage people to move forward in this process?
Great question. Like I said, I've made some massive mistakes, and I've also done some things really well. I've done more things well than I've done wrong, so we're ahead. But I would really rather people not make the mistakes I've made. So that's why, find somebody who has done what you want to do, because they've learned those mistakes and they can help you. Even on your first deal, if you have to give up 50% of the profit just to have an experienced person help you, it's worth it, because you'll still get profit versus loss, by having that person there. So just learn, educate, surround yourself with the right people. Go to real estate investment groups, they're everywhere. Real Wealth Network, we meet, like I said, once a month so investors can come together and learn from each other. Got my podcast that you can listen to and learn. I do a daily news show so that you're not caught off guard, finding out that interest rates have gone up or down, or that the Fed is planning to raise them again, or just stay on top of things. We've been taught to trust someone else with our money. That's just the way it is. You've been taught to hand your money over to a financial planner because they know better than you do. And that's not going to work, because the only person who cares as much about your money is you. So learn. Get that idea out of your mind that you can just trust someone else. My experience has been there are very few people you can truly trust. And the person you can trust the most is yourself. So get educated.
That's great. great information for our viewers. So just as our final question, I'd love to hear, what are you most excited about right now? It could be work or personal.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm so excited because our company has just gone to this new level where we have 30,000 investors. So when a developer comes to us, or if a really amazing project comes to us, we can do it. An example is 4,200 lots went into foreclosure in Tampa, and the price tag had been $160 million, and we were able to get it for $16 million.
Wow.
But not everybody can just write a check for $16 million. Even if you had it, it's a lot of money. So now we have so many investors that we act as crowdfunding, where we bring the investors together, and we're able to buy that together. So our investors are making returns that they could never make on their own, and shouldn't. Nobody should write that kind of check. We spread out the risk. And then we've got these developers with 30, 40 years experience that I have said, I'm usually the only woman in the room these days. Love to see more women, come on. But oftentimes it's me and a bunch of developers, and I say, look, our investors are putting up the money. There's a lot of profit here. You're going to share it. Because and they would say, oh no, you can't give your investors more than 8%. They'll get spoiled and they won't believe that it's real. And I'm like, yeah, they will. Because we're going to show them the numbers, and you don't get to keep all the money. So, they're just used to doing things a certain way. I would say I'm helping disrupt that.
That's awesome. I love it. Kathy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And tune in next time to the LA Home Show, where we discuss all things real estate, interior design, and much, much more.